Are Rotten Tomatoes actually a useful indication of whether a film is good or bad? Well, in today's video, I'm going to give my opinion on it. So, without further ado, let's get into it. In principle, Rotten Tomatoes is a useful site for highlighting what the general consensus that critics and audience members are thinking. Now, it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. Sometimes critics and audiences disagree on a film. I know, shock horror. You can see that through Rotten Tomatoes. Sometimes you will see films on Rotten Tomatoes which have a very high critic score but a very low audience score, and vice versa. Now, I don't think that problem is just linked to Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's a society problem. There are always going to be films which audiences loved. They're often referred to as cult classic films, but audiences absolutely hated and criticised every aspect of it. I think that's just what happens. There is always going to be a divide between what the critics think and what the audiences think. That's just what is going to happen. Now, in recent weeks, Rotten Tomatoes have come under controversy from some for what has happened with Marvel's new film, The Eternals. Now, Eternals has been billed as a very different Marvel film for the simple reason it is placing a heavy emphasis on ethnic minorities and LGBTQ+ representation. Is that a bad thing? No, of course not. Now, Eternals currently has a 21% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, which is the lowest score that any Marvel film in the MCU has experienced to date. And of course, quite a lot of people have already said the critics don't like this film because of its emphasis on LGBT representation. Now, if you ask me, I don't have an opinion of it, for the simple reason I have not seen this film yet. So I can't give an opinion, not until I've seen it. But then that got me thinking, is Rotten Tomatoes actually a useful site? If you ask me, Rotten Tomatoes is still a very useful site because it just highlights the division between critics and fans. Look at some of the examples where there has been this division. Doctor Who Series 11, 90% critic score, 20% audience score. Joker, 68% critic score, 88% audience score. The Last Jedi, 91% critic score, 42% audience score. This shows that there is a division. I don't think we can blame Rotten Tomatoes for that. It just highlights that sometimes things are decisive. Some things that critics like, audiences don't like, and vice versa. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think we should just deal with it. If you're complaining that Rotten Tomatoes are giving a film a bad critic score, don't worry about it. It doesn't affect how much you enjoy the film, so don't worry about what everyone else thinks. Now, currently, Eternals has a 34% audience score. The film hasn't been released worldwide yet, though, so who knows? That score could increase. However, I think it is very clear that you can't just blame Rotten Tomatoes if a film appears to be doing bad amongst critics and fans. So thanks for watching, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe in order to receive great and maybe even improved quality content in the future. And of course, what are your thoughts on Rotten Tomatoes? Do you think they're actually a useful site, or do you think that we should just scrap it altogether? And I will see you in another one. See ya!